Good morning, children, and my new class. So, today we will be starting this new chapter, that is Owens versus Master Race. This is Unit 8. Now, this has been written by Paul Dowswell. He is a British writer of non fiction and fiction. He writes mainly for children and young adults and has written over 60 books. His main subject of interest is history, but he also writes about geography, natural history, and science. Now, let us read who is Owens and why is this chapter called Master Race versus the Master Race. Let us start reading it. American athlete Jesse Owens had just come off the ocean liner Manhattan on his way to the Berlin Olympics. So now here we are talking about the Berlin Olympics and it is about Jesse Owens. The year was 1936. As his motor coach rolled southeast towards the German capital, he stared out from the window with increasing amazement. He was quite amazed. Probably he had never come that far. The streets of Germany, so they have come to Germany, were like nothing he had ever seen before. The old buildings fascinated him. But most striking of all were the swastika flags. I hope you all know how a swastik, the symbol swastik looks like. That seemed, see here they have to given us the symbol swastik. That seemed to hang from almost every window or shop front. The crooked black cross on a blood red banner was the symbol of the German Nazi Party. Its presence spoke silently of a country totally controlled by Nazis. So, this is the time period when Nazis were more powerful and controlled Germany. Now, let us read on. In 1936, Olympics were held in troubled times. Italy had just conquered Ethiopia. Mass unemployment plagued Europe and America. Brazil was so politically divided, it sent two teams to games, and both were disqualified. And civil war had just broken out in Spain that very summer. Most ominous of all, a regime of alarming brutality, the Nazi regime, had taken control in Germany. So now this tells us that it was a very difficult time because a lot of political hustle bustle was going on. The Nazis believed that German people were the master race. Now, this is very important. You'll have to understand that the Nazis believed that German people were the master race. Now, what do you mean by master race? Master race means superior human beings who were destined to rule the world. So, this was their thinking. To them, the huge 110,000 capacity Berlin Olympic Stadium was to be a grand stage where German athletes would assert their claims to racial superiority. Now, what does this mean? Here it means that the German athletes, would assert means they would show their claims. It means that they would win all the games and they would show racial superiority. Now, here, racial superiority means the belief that people of one race are better than those of another. The Olympics was to be a grand advertisement for the regime and its beliefs. Now, basically, the games which were held there, the Olympics games which were held there, were not only for the games purpose or for the sport purpose, but they had organized it to display their own faith of racial superiority. Let us read on. The Nazis had strong views about other races too, especially the Jews and black people. Now, this you'll have to understand that at that point of time, the Nazis were quite against the Jews and black people. They did not like them because they thought that they were of the lower strata. Nazi leaders blamed the Jews for every evil that had overtaken their country that century, and the Jewish people in Germany were subjected to daily abuse and violence. Yes, this is a fact. At that time, the Jews were maltreated and they were tortured. The Jews who stayed in Germany. The Nazi attitude to black people was less complicated. They simply thought of them as subhuman. Now, what do you mean by subhuman? Subhuman means a person who is not fit to be called a human. So, what they thought was that the black people were subhuman, they did not fit as humans. Many people throughout the world were disgusted by the racist attitude of the Nazis. So, people all around the world were disgusted. They felt bad about this behavior or the attitude of the Nazis and felt their country should boycott the Olympics. Aware of this reaction, the Nazis had softened their fanatical policies in the recent months. Eventually, 52 nations agreed to attend the Berlin Olympics. Now, we are talking about Berlin Olympics, in which about 52 nations agreed. Most of the nations were against the Olympics being held in Berlin because they thought that the Nazis had very strong opinions about others and they were racist people who discriminated among the races. I hope this is clear to you. Let's move on. Owens too had wondered whether he should go to Berlin, but at 22, he was one of America's most promising athletes. It means that the country had a lot of hopes from him. He was an extraordinary runner and was equally remarkable in long jump. The Olympic Games offered him the opportunity to show his skills to the entire world. So now, Owens, who was a promising athlete, also participated in this. I hope this is clear till here, and from the seventh paragraph, we'll continue in my next class. So, have a nice day and keep learning.